So Rob, we all had a good laugh at the Autosport Awards last Sunday night. Noticed you and Nico particularly having a bit of a giggle, rudely during Nigel Mansell's epic speech, but we'll put that to one side. What was Rosberg on about with you?
I'm sorry about Nigel.
Well, Nigel made a very good point, actually. He was just reminding everybody how difficult it is to race against a world champion in the other car, which, of course, you know, that was one of the great things that Nico achieved this year. But anyway, yeah, you and Nico had a bit of a laugh.
Well, it was very pleasant, actually, because he'd received his trophy, and we were sitting at the front of the stage there, and there was a seat beside me because Anthony Hamilton had been at the table with us, but he had to leave before the awards finally started. So and he walked down and sat
And if I can interject here and say, I thought Nick Hamilton made a very, very good speech. Excellent, yeah. Wasn't he? I thought he was gracious. He was nice to all the other drivers. He spoke well on behalf of Lewis. Yeah. And I think he captured the Lewis that I know, anyway, which is a very nice guy. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Even to the point where he said, you know, it's not all about Lewis, and he made some mistakes earlier on, and so it was a very reasoned speech, I thought. Yeah. But no, Nico, it just came off and just said, you know, he talked about the very beginning when I was working with him and pushing him into Formula One and telling people, and he said no, he remembered that very, very well, and thanked, you know, for the time, and it was nice. He was very gracious. And
didn't Nico come over well in every respect? He was just a standing ovations wherever he went, wasn't he?
Well, I think he suddenly the pressure's off him, and he's become a very relaxed, engaging guy, and he did speak very, very well, and he was kind about Lewis. He said he understood why he did it, but I thought Paddy Lowe's point was very good, because yes, and Lewis had ignored him. He said he didn't want to look like a pillock again by telling him again, and so it was acknowledged that Lewis was doing everything he could. But
Monaco, yeah.
And then when he said, just by way of balance, you know, when I asked Nico, or told Nico to move aside for Lewis, he did it within one or two corners, and I think that captured the attention.
Slightly different though, because Nico was going backwards at the time, couldn't see where he was going with the missed advisor, and Lewis was unbelievably quick at that point, and Nico was freaking out, I think, at Monaco in terms of the conditions. But no, it was a good point by Paddy. But I took, when he said I didn't want to look like a pillock, I took that remark to mean in front of Toto, because it was Toto that was telling Paddy to give those instructions to Lewis, and I know for a fact that Paddy wasn't very comfortable about having to do that, and he felt that the way Lewis was running that race was completely predictable and what you'd expect of anybody in that position to do. But it was Toto that was thinking, no, I want Lewis to go as quickly as possible and win by the greatest possible margin, to get away from the opposition, and that's what that was all about. And just to finish that point, it's interesting that Toto had said that if Lewis is guilty of holding up the race too much, they would swap the pit stops around and give the advantage to Nico, and Lewis was, to his credit, I'm going to drive my motor race, and it's not just about a motor race, it's a world championship here, and I'm going to try and win that world championship as best I can. And he was saved by, I think it was Daniel Ricciardo, and it was certainly by Daniel and Kimi, I think, having a bit of a fight and holding everything up a bit, which involving Nico, which meant that Lewis still had a bit of an advantage, and they didn't do the pit stop swap. But that was a threat that Lewis had to live with, which I think is a little bit over the top. But going back to Nico, I don't know if you agree with this, but for me, it was, I've done a video about this, but the more you think about Nico's retirement, the more it comes into focus. And for me, it was a very pure retirement, by which I mean he retired for all the right reasons, because he had achieved it. As distinct from, I've had enough of this, or too many other people are getting hurt, or I might get hurt, or I'm not in the right car. And to actually retire when you've effectively got your hole-in-one in golf, and that's it, I've done it, that's what the sport's all about, I think it's a very precious thing for any human being to do in any walk of life, actually, and it's very pure, and it has to be counterbalanced, and we know this is the case, alongside Nico saying that had he not won the championship, he'd still be racing, and that's the beauty of this retirement.
And also, it was interesting to hear him saying he didn't know if he would be brave enough to announce his retirement. Not brave enough to go out and race the car again for another year, but brave enough to announce the retirement. And so, he was very pure. It's quite right.
And Rob, outside of Formula One, you've had a really busy year. GP2, I think, has been your main focus now. You've trained this year. You've been working with Norman Nato, Alex Lynn,
Artem
Markelov, whose improvement has been just stunning. Tell us about that.
Well, Artem has developed a superb feel, and he can circulate so quickly. He can do a terrifically fast lap, and he looks after his tyres so well. His tyres last longer than anybody's, and a huge thing is how you move your body, and it's the rate that you transfer weight, through your feet and through your hands and steering the brake, the throttle, and he's developed a true elegance, and you don't really feel the joins at all when he's lapping. We're sitting with him there, and the lap times are fast. So, all right, he's had a mistake or two, but he won Monaco, and it was helped with the virtual safety car in that instance. But he managed to make those tyres last about 32 laps. I mean,
and he was under a lot of pressure when the virtual safety car conditions changed right at the end.
But people are thinking, well, how are these tyres keeping going? We know how it is. He's developed this terrific rate of input, and so enjoying that. But we do that with everyone else as well. And
Norman Nato, you've done a lot of work with Norman too, and he won Barcelona and was a front runner in most races.
Yes, and Alex, we're hoping, will stay in single seaters because he can move into sports cars, but he could do that in a year's time. I was telling him at the Autosport Award, just keep going. But he's somewhere between the two, I think, at the moment. Yeah,
difficult season for Alex Lynn. Dam's not where you would expect them to be, but they did lose quite a lot of key personnel over the winter of 2015-16.
Gustav Mahler, Swedish driver, is getting podiums now, and he's looked after by Ricard Rydell, who we all remember from back in the 80s over here. And Ricard's been over as well to sit with him while we've been doing our days, and very likeable driver who's going to be a threat next season.
And GP3, you've worked with quite a lot of the Brits who've been doing well there.
Jack Aitken, Jake Hughes, Matt Parry's just started to come along just now, but a lot of days with Jake and a lot with Jack Aitken, who they're both absolutely top class drivers. And Jake is a real racer, and showed that when he jumped into the F3 car just at the tail end of the year there, and was pretty much on the pace of the world. And
when you say top class, you've got a huge palette of ingredients at which you can look, and so you're talking potential Formula One stars, no question.
Yeah, Jake and Jack for sure are, and Jack Aitken is an interesting character. He's deceptively quick, and you're sitting with him, and he's a very economical driver. He's not wearing the car out or doing anything. So he's an interesting creature.
Tatiana's gone well on occasions, hasn't he? Tatiana Calderon.
Yeah, that's right. She's has such a lovely feel for it, and good for her. She's stayed in the toughest single-seater categories she can, and hopefully it's going to happen next year as well. And she just gets better. Circumstances, sometimes retirements, bits and pieces when you're somewhere midfield or and running in 10th place or something.
Very difficult to stay out of the traffic when you qualify where she does. But I've watched her a couple of times, and she does seem able to put in sectors within a tenth or two of the base lap time required. Putting the whole lap together under pressure, still perhaps a difficult ask. How's that going to come together for her?
We're just going to put more meat on the bone. Well, she knows that. We're just going to toughen it up when near enough's not good enough. So we say, that went a bit wrong in that corner, but we know why. Well, we'll just reduce the number of times that goes wrong. But she's a wonderfully talented person, terrific for the sport. She does a lot of television work and so on, and
multilingual, like most of these young guys.
Yeah, exactly, and better English than most people that speak English. She's a lot of people born in England, so enjoying the time with her. So yes, the GP3 is Jake, Jack. Matt Parry coming.
And you've worked with quite a lot of the IndyCar drivers over the last couple of years too, haven't you?
Will's been over. And, Will Power. And then, yesterday, the day before, I was with Marco Andretti was back, and he was over a few years ago and went really well for a while, a few years ago at the start of the season. And so we brought him back over to fill him back up again, and we had a really intensive time. His engineer came over as well, and we worked and worked and worked at it, and had a great time. And he's a talented driver, and it's good to see that Andretti name there. And of course he's got Mario, and I said, well, Mario will be pleased. He said, but if I do well, you don't see me on TV, it's Mario.
Good old Mario.
Yeah, no. He did, one day he did 215 laps at Sebring. They were doing some testing for Honda. The sun was coming up, and this is Marco, and they finished with the sun going down, and he went back and told Mario, I did 215 laps at Sebring today, and Mario said, I did 216. You ain't going to beat Mario. So he been over. Jack Hawksworth, of course, has been over, and Mikhail Alation is the Russian driver, where Schmidt was over, and he's picking it up as a good driver.
Good.